Alright, hopefully everybody is ready to do some completing the square. And look at that, I forgot the E. Alright, so first up, get the C to the other side by subtracting 2. Now we got to take half of B and square it. So half of 6 is 3, 3 squared is 9, so that's what we need to add to both sides. Hopefully everybody is still healthy and no coronavirus. So now we can factor it to x plus 3 squared equals 7. So now we take the square root of both sides. Don't forget to put your plus and minus in front of the radical 7. So now our last step is just subtract 3 from both sides. So we end up with x equals negative 3 plus and minus radical 7. So much fun, right? You guys are at home. Alright, the next problem. So notice the b value is even, so this is going to be a nice easy problem. So we have to subtract 14 from both sides, and then we're going to take half of 8 and square it. So we need to add 16 to both sides. So now we know that that's going to factor to be what, x plus 4 times x plus 4. So it'd be x plus 4 squared equals 2. So now we just take the square root of both sides. Don't forget our plus and minus. And now our last step is just to subtract 4 from both sides. So our solution would be negative 4 plus and minus radical 2. Alright, so notice this one has an a value of something other than 1, so we're going to do a little bit more work with this one. But again, get the c to the other side by subtracting 3. And so now what we're going to need to do is factor out that a value on the left-hand side. So we're going to factor out a 9. That's like our stretch factor, if you remember back graphing quadratics. So now we need to take half of 2, square it, and that's 1. So we've got to add 1 there. So now we've got to add 1 times 9 to the other side, so we'd add 9. So now we know this factors to 9 times x minus 1 squared equals 6. Now I need to divide both sides by 9. And since I know we're going to be taking the square root, because we obviously have a square there, I'm not going to simplify that fraction of 6/9 because just make it easier to take the square root of 9 in our denominator. So we have x minus 1 equals positive negative radical 6 all over 3. So let's get on to the next two. So these are a little bit different because our b value is odd when we actually start to factor them. So these are a little bit more challenging. But again, we get to see the other side by adding 99. And then we're going to factor out that 4. So we have x squared minus 1x equals 99. So we take half of 1, which is 1/2, and we square 1/2, which is 1/4. Alright, so we factor that to be x minus 1/2 squared equals 100. So now we need to divide both sides by 4. So we end up with x minus 1/2 squared equals 25. So now we need to take square root of both sides and put our plus and minus in. So we got x minus 1/2 equals positive negative 5. So we can add the 1/2 and we'd have 1/2 plus or minus 5. Or we could actually work it out since that's pretty simple. So we do 1/2 plus 5 and we would get 11/2. And then we can do 1/2 minus 5 and we get negative 9/2. right, let's get this last problem done. All right, so notice this one has a negative a value, so we're going to have to do a little work with that. But again, get to see the other side. And then we're going to factor out that negative 1. So you have x squared minus x equals 1. So now we take half of 1, which is 1/2, and square it. That's 1/4. So now we're going to have to subtract 1/4 from the right-hand side because we have to do negative 1 times 1/4. So now we know this thing factors to x minus 1/2 squared equals 3/4. So now we just need to multiply or divide by a negative 1. And then we're going to have to take the square root of both sides. Sorry, the audio is horrible. I couldn't go into the other classroom and get a microphone. So notice this one's going to have a complex solution. So you have x minus 1/2 equals positive negative I radical 3 all over 2. 2. It looks like I screwed that up. I'll fix that in just a minute. So we add our 1/2 to both sides. There we go. All right, good. So hopefully these problems made sense. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, call me, or stop in.